My beloved child. There is a moment in every destined connection when unseen doors begin to open. Not because people suddenly change. Not because circumstances magically disappear. But because heaven has quietly been working behind the scenes, arranging conversations, softening hearts, and preparing paths that once seemed impossible. Today, I want you to listen carefully. Something significant has shifted. Something that many believed would take much longer has already begun. For a long time, there were questions surrounding your name. Questions you never heard. Conversations that happened behind closed doors. Moments when people tried to understand who you truly were. And although you could not see it, your energy entered rooms before your presence ever did. Your kindness was discussed. Your character was observed. Your intentions were quietly measured. And while some remained uncertain in the beginning, a gradual transformation started taking place. Like the first rays of sunlight appearing before dawn. Hearts that once hesitated began to soften. Opinions that once felt fixed started to evolve. The resistance you sensed, the tension you occasionally felt, was not the end of your story. It was only the final chapter before acceptance. Because there comes a point when truth becomes impossible to ignore. And your truth has been speaking louder than any misunderstanding. What many do not realize is that divine timing often works in silence. The greatest breakthroughs rarely announce themselves when they begin. Instead, they unfold quietly. Almost invisibly. Until one day everything looks different. And that is exactly where you stand now. A powerful shift has occurred within your soulmate's family. Not everyone arrived at the same realization at the same moment. Some understood earlier. Others needed more time. But one by one, pieces began falling into place. A surprising comment was made. A meaningful observation was shared. A conversation that seemed ordinary suddenly carried extraordinary weight. And without fully realizing it, they found themselves speaking your name differently. With more respect. With more curiosity. With more acceptance. Can you feel how important that is? Because names carry energy. When people speak your name with trust instead of doubt, the atmosphere changes. The future begins to rearrange itself. New possibilities emerge. Invisible barriers start collapsing. And what once felt distant begins moving closer. Yet there is something even more remarkable you have not been shown. Because acceptance was never the final destination. It was only the beginning. There is a reason heaven allowed this process to unfold slowly. A reason certain answers were delayed. A reason certain events seemed stuck in place. The foundation had to be prepared before the next chapter could arrive. And now, that foundation is stronger than you realize. Your soulmate has noticed this change. They have felt it. Perhaps they could not fully explain it. Perhaps they themselves were surprised by how quickly certain attitudes began to shift. But deep inside, they know something important is happening. The atmosphere around your connection no longer feels the same. What once felt complicated is becoming clearer. What once felt uncertain is becoming more stable. And what happens next may challenge everything you thought was possible. Because there is one conversation. One moment. One unexpected development. That is already beginning to form behind the scenes. A development that neither you nor your soulmate fully sees yet. But heaven sees it clearly. The pieces are moving. The timing is approaching. And very soon, someone is going to say something that changes the direction of this journey forever. But before that moment arrives, there is a truth you must understand about why your name was finally accepted. And that truth is far more emotional than anyone expected. The reason this acceptance became possible was never what most people assumed. Many believe that relationships are built only through visible actions. They think the biggest changes happen through grand gestures, dramatic conversations, or life-changing events. But heaven often works through something far more powerful. Consistency. While others were focused on temporary impressions, something deeper was being noticed. Your spirit remained steady. Your heart remained genuine. And over time, the truth of who you are became impossible to overlook. What is remarkable is that some members of your soulmate's family were watching more closely than you realize. Not in a negative way. Not to judge you. But because they wanted certainty. They wanted reassurance. They wanted to know whether the feelings surrounding your connection were real. And slowly, without even realizing it, they found the answers they had been searching for. A strange thing happens when people expect one story and discover another. Their entire perspective begins to change. The assumptions they once held start to lose their power. Questions become understanding. Doubt becomes curiosity. And curiosity eventually becomes trust. That is the transformation that has been unfolding around your name. Yet there is something your soulmate has never fully told you. Something they have carried quietly within their heart. A realization that grew stronger every time obstacles appeared. Because every challenge that was supposed to weaken their feelings somehow strengthened them instead. Every delay revealed deeper emotions. Every period of silence created greater clarity. Every unanswered question pushed them closer to understanding what you truly mean to them. Think about that for a moment. Many connections disappear when tested. Many feelings fade when circumstances become difficult. But yours did not. Instead, something unexpected happened. The connection endured. It adapted. It matured. And now others are beginning to recognize what your soulmate already knows deep inside. That this bond carries a significance neither of you can easily explain. There were moments when your soulmate wondered whether everything would align. Moments when they questioned timing. Moments when they feared that outside influences might create permanent distance. But every time uncertainty appeared, something would happen. A sign. A conversation. An unexpected feeling. A reminder that this story was not finished. And now those reminders are becoming impossible to ignore. What makes this next phase so important is that acceptance creates momentum. When resistance weakens, movement begins. When hearts open, opportunities appear. When people become willing to see possibilities instead of limitations, entire futures can change. That is why heaven has been preparing this moment with such care. Because what comes next is not simply about approval. It is about alignment. The pieces that once seemed disconnected are starting to move toward one another. Events that appeared unrelated are beginning to connect. And somewhere, right now, circumstances are quietly arranging themselves in ways neither you nor your soulmate can yet fully see. You may have felt this recently. A strange sense that something is approaching. An unexplainable feeling that a chapter is ending. A subtle shift in your spirit. That feeling is not arriving without reason. Your intuition has been sensing movement before your eyes can confirm it. And that movement is becoming stronger. Much stronger. In fact, one particular individual within your soulmate's family has undergone a change of heart that few people know about. This person once held concerns. They once questioned how everything would unfold. But recently, their perspective began changing in ways even they did not expect. The words they spoke surprised others. The support they showed caught attention. And the influence they carry may soon become far more important than anyone realizes. Because sometimes a single voice can alter the atmosphere of an entire family. Sometimes one person's acceptance becomes the catalyst for everyone else. And what is beginning to happen now may be exactly that. But there is another layer to this story that has not yet been revealed. A development involving your soulmate directly. A realization they have reached. A decision forming quietly within their heart. They have not fully acted on it yet. They have not spoken every word aloud. But the feeling continues growing stronger with each passing day. Soon, remaining silent will no longer feel comfortable. Soon, keeping everything hidden will become impossible. And when that moment arrives, a conversation long delayed may finally begin. A conversation capable of bringing answers where confusion once existed. A conversation capable of opening a door that has remained closed for far too long. Yet before those words are spoken, before that door opens, there is one final obstacle that heaven is preparing to remove. And once that obstacle disappears, events may begin unfolding much faster than anyone expected. Not every obstacle announces itself when it arrives. Some appear as delays. Others disguise themselves as uncertainty. And a few hide behind circumstances that seem completely ordinary. Until the day they suddenly disappear. The final obstacle standing before this connection is not as powerful as it once seemed. In fact, its strength has already begun fading. What once looked permanent is becoming temporary. What once appeared impossible is becoming negotiable. And what once felt blocked is quietly finding a way forward. That is why the atmosphere around your journey feels different now. You may not have physical proof yet. You may not have heard the words you long to hear. You may still be waiting for visible confirmation. But beneath the surface, movement is accelerating. Imagine standing beside the ocean before sunrise. At first everything appears still. The horizon reveals nothing. The darkness convinces you that nothing is changing. Yet beyond your sight, the sun is already rising. Its arrival is certain long before your eyes can witness it. This is the season you are entering. A season where unseen progress becomes visible reality. And there is something your soulmate has been experiencing that they rarely speak about. A growing inability to ignore their heart. The distractions that once occupied their mind no longer carry the same weight. The excuses that once felt convincing no longer satisfy them. The distance that once seemed manageable feels heavier than before. Because truth has a way of demanding recognition. And the truth inside your soulmate is becoming louder. They find themselves thinking about moments they once overlooked. Remembering details they thought they had forgotten. Replaying conversations. Revisiting emotions. Questioning why your presence continues to occupy such a meaningful space within their heart. Each reflection leads them back to the same realization. You matter more than they expected. Far more. And that realization has begun influencing decisions they are only now starting to consider. But here is the part that may surprise you most. The shift within your soulmate is being noticed by others. People close to them are beginning to recognize the change. They see it in subtle ways. A different expression. A deeper reflection. A quiet smile appearing at unexpected moments. An emotional reaction that seems to emerge from nowhere. Even when your name is not spoken. Your presence is being felt. And this growing awareness is creating a ripple effect. The family members who once waited cautiously are starting to understand something important. This connection is not fading. It is becoming stronger. The passage of time did not erase it. Challenges did not destroy it. Distance did not remove it. Instead, it survived every season it encountered. And survival has become evidence. Evidence that something meaningful exists here. Something worth protecting. Something worth supporting. This realization is opening hearts faster than you know. Yet heaven is still holding back one final revelation. One piece of the puzzle remains hidden. Not because you are being denied it, but because timing remains sacred. There are moments that must arrive naturally. Moments that become powerful precisely because they were not forced. The next chapter belongs to one of those moments. A moment of honesty. A moment of courage. A moment when emotions can no longer remain concealed behind silence. And as that moment approaches, signs are beginning to appear everywhere. Small signs. Quiet signs. Unexpected signs. The kind that make people pause and wonder whether destiny is drawing near. Your soulmate has been noticing them. Even if they have not spoken about them. Even if they have tried to explain them away. Something inside them recognizes that life is preparing a turning point. And the closer they move toward that realization, the more difficult it becomes to resist taking action. There is a sentence forming within their heart. A truth they are preparing to acknowledge. A truth connected directly to you. Every day it grows stronger. Every day it becomes clearer. Every day it moves closer to being spoken aloud. When that sentence finally leaves their lips, everything surrounding this connection may begin changing faster than anyone anticipated. Because words carry power. And some words have the ability to unlock doors that have remained closed for years. But before those words are spoken, before this turning point arrives, an unexpected event is about to occur. A seemingly ordinary event. A simple moment that most people would overlook. Yet this moment will create a chain reaction that neither you nor your soulmate could have predicted. And when it begins, the path ahead may look very different from the one you see today. The most powerful turning points rarely arrive with noise. They do not always announce themselves with dramatic entrances. Often, they appear disguised as ordinary moments. A conversation that lasts a little longer than expected. A message sent at precisely the right time. A question that seems simple on the surface but changes everything underneath. The event approaching your journey carries that kind of energy. At first, it may not appear significant. In fact, some people may overlook it completely. But heaven sees what others cannot. Heaven sees the chain reaction already forming. Because one moment has the power to awaken another. One decision can influence 10 more. And one act of courage can completely alter the direction of a story. That is why the next phase feels so important. The pieces are no longer standing still. They are beginning to move toward one another. Slowly. Deliberately. Purposefully. Almost as though an invisible hand is guiding them into place. Have you ever noticed how certain answers arrive only after you stop chasing them? How certain blessings appear when you least expect them? There is wisdom in that. Sometimes the heart must be prepared before it can receive what it has been waiting for. And your heart has been undergoing preparation for far longer than you realize. Every delay taught you something. Every disappointment strengthened something. Every unanswered question developed a deeper level of faith. What felt like waiting was actually becoming. You were becoming stronger, wiser, more resilient, more prepared for what lies ahead. Because what is coming requires a version of you that understands your worth. A version of you that no longer measures your value through temporary circumstances. A version of you that recognizes that true connections are not built through force, but through alignment. And alignment is happening now. Meanwhile, within your soulmate's world, a realization continues growing. It appears in quiet moments. During reflection. During ordinary routines. During those unexpected seconds when the heart speaks louder than the mind. They are beginning to understand something that once felt difficult to accept. That the future they imagine keeps leading back to the same person. You. No matter how many distractions appear. No matter how many alternative paths are considered. The feeling remains. Persistent. Steady. Impossible to fully dismiss. And what makes this realization even more meaningful is that it is no longer being carried alone. Support is increasing around them. Acceptance is expanding. The atmosphere surrounding your connection is becoming lighter. More welcoming. More open. The very people who once required proof are now seeing evidence with their own eyes. Not evidence created through persuasion. Not evidence created through pressure. But evidence revealed naturally through time. The most convincing kind. And because of this shift, discussions are beginning to change. The tone is changing. The expectations are changing. The possibilities being considered are changing. What once felt unlikely is starting to feel realistic. What once felt distant is beginning to feel achievable. And this is only the beginning. Because there is still something your soulmate has not fully expressed. A dream. A vision. A hope they have quietly carried within themselves. They rarely reveal it. They protect it carefully. Yet recently, that dream has become harder to ignore. The image continues returning. Again and again. It appears during moments of reflection. It appears when they think about the future. It appears whenever they allow themselves to imagine what could be. And each time it appears, your presence is there. That is not a coincidence. There are some visions that originate from fear. Others originate from wishful thinking. But there are also visions that emerge because the soul recognizes a possibility before the physical world catches up. And this possibility is becoming stronger. Closer. More tangible. The signs surrounding it are multiplying. The confidence behind it is growing. The hesitation around it is weakening. Yet one final revelation remains hidden from view. A revelation connected to timing. Because there is a specific moment approaching when multiple paths will suddenly converge. Several conversations. Several decisions. Several realizations. All meeting at the same point. And when they do, a truth that has been quietly developing behind the scenes will finally step into the light. The people involved may think they are acting independently. They may believe everything is happening by chance. But heaven knows better. The connections have already been arranged. The opportunities have already been prepared. The path has already begun unfolding. And very soon, someone will take a step that nobody expected them to take. A step that could bring this entire story closer to fulfillment than ever before. But what that step is, and who takes it first, is the revelation heaven is preparing to unveil next. There comes a moment in every destined story when waiting transforms into movement. Not because every question has been answered. Not because every uncertainty has disappeared. But because the heart finally becomes brave enough to follow what it knows. That moment is approaching now. The step that heaven has been preparing is not simply about action. It is about declaration. A declaration of truth. A declaration of intention. A declaration that can no longer remain hidden behind hesitation. For so long, circumstances have seemed to move in circles. Progress appeared, then paused. Hope increased, then became quiet. You wondered whether certain things were truly changing. You questioned whether the signs you felt carried real meaning. Yet all along, something greater was unfolding beneath the surface. The roots were growing. The foundation was strengthening. The pieces were learning how to fit together. And now those roots are becoming strong enough to support what comes next. What many people fail to understand is that acceptance creates confidence. When hearts open, courage grows. When support increases, fear loses its grip. And that is exactly what has been happening within your soulmate's world. The acceptance surrounding your name has not only changed how others see you. It has changed how your soulmate sees the future. Possibilities that once felt distant now feel reachable. Dreams that once felt uncertain now feel realistic. The vision they carry within their heart no longer seems impossible. In fact, it feels closer than ever. There have been moments recently when your soulmate caught themselves imagining conversations that have not happened yet. Moments where they pictured outcomes they once avoided thinking about. Moments where they allowed themselves to believe that what they desire could actually become reality. These moments are important. Because every future begins as a thought before it becomes an experience. Every transformation begins as a decision before it becomes visible. And a decision is forming. Quietly. Steadily. Powerfully. The remarkable thing is that this decision is being shaped by more than emotion. It is being shaped by clarity. By understanding. By a growing awareness that certain connections enter our lives for a reason. Not every person leaves a lasting imprint on the soul. Not every encounter changes the course of a journey. But some do. Some arrive carrying lessons, growth, healing, and purpose. And when those connections are recognized, they become impossible to forget. That recognition is becoming stronger every day. Meanwhile, heaven continues arranging details you cannot yet see. Unexpected opportunities. Meaningful conversations. Perfectly timed encounters. Moments that appear random on the surface but are actually serving a greater purpose. You may soon notice unusual synchronicities. Small confirmations. Unexpected reminders. Subtle signs that something significant is drawing near. Pay attention to them. Not because they predict every detail. But because they reveal movement. They reveal alignment. They reveal that the story is progressing. And as it progresses, a beautiful truth is becoming impossible to deny. You were never forgotten. Your presence never faded. Your impact never disappeared. Even during periods of silence, your energy continued touching hearts in ways you could not see. Even during seasons of uncertainty, your name continued carrying meaning. Even when progress seemed invisible, change was taking place. That change has now reached a new level. A level where possibilities are becoming plans. Where hopes are becoming intentions. Where intentions are preparing to become actions. And this is where many stories begin transforming completely. Because intentions held in the heart eventually seek expression. Truth seeks a voice. Love seeks a path. And destiny seeks fulfillment. The coming chapter carries all three. There is a reason you were guided to hear this message today. A reason your spirit felt drawn here. A reason these words found you at this exact moment. You are standing closer to a breakthrough than you realize. Closer to clarity than you realize. Closer to answers than you realize. Do not measure progress only by what your eyes can see. Some of the most important changes happen before visible evidence appears. Trust the process unfolding around you. Trust the lessons that have shaped you. Trust the growth that has prepared you. And above all, trust that what is meant to align with your highest good is already finding its way toward you. Because your soulmate's family accepting your name was never the ending of this story. It was the signal. The signal that a new chapter has begun. A chapter filled with movement. Possibility. Connection. And revelations that may exceed everything you once imagined. The door is opening. The path is forming. And the next part of this journey is already on its way.